feel like I need I've had such a long day. Between our volleyball tournament earlier and our volleyball game now, my brain is fried. So, I'm here to talk to you about books. And hopefully it sounds coherent. So, hello and welcome back. Of course, my name is Hannah, and today I am going to be discussing the book NoLab by Richard Roth. And I'm super excited about this book in particular because this particular review comes about because of a partnership between the local newspaper that I write for, the Left Hand Valley Courier, and then a bookstore in Niwot, Colorado called Inkberry Books. It's this super cute little bookshop. They have new and used. They have kind of quirky books that you wouldn't really find on a whole lot of other places. And one of those is NoLab. So when I was originally pitched this book, and I kind of mentioned this in my last video, I said it was pitched to me as a sci-fi book, and I was a little bit wrong. Sorry for that fib. But it was actually pitched to me as an art thriller spoof. I'm not really sure where the spoof comes in, but I definitely see where the art part is really important and the thriller part isn't really important. Because it's kind of a little bit of a whodunit book. It's a little bit of a mystery to catch a thief kind of situation. But underneath it all is this concept of art and what counts as art and what doesn't count as art. So this book follows primarily this artist slash professor Ray Lawson, and it takes place in 2016. So it's very recent, very contemporary, and it's really cool but it definitely references the time and place in which the book is set. For example, it does mention Trump and MAGA and kind of the other events surrounding the 2016 election. And gonna be honest, the characters who do bring Trump up don't really care for him. So if you're a diehard conservative or Trump fan, like, you might be a little bit offended by that. So all I have to say is please remember that this is fiction and that any character's opinions in the book are purely make-believe, and that shouldn't take away from your interest in reading the book because it's really interesting. Something else that I said about last week's book, The Essex Serpent, is that it's a very quotable book. And I realized that I didn't read you a whole lot of quotes, but there were a few in this one that stuck out to me a lot. And I'm going to start off kind of with a summary of one. Going back to the art idea, there's this one part at the end of the novel after all the drama ensues, and they're having a party, and this woman is talking about her concept of art and what it means. And she's basically saying that even though over time we've developed our artistic styles from like the classical to the Renaissance to the modern and postmodern, she argues that we've kind of recessed in a level of skill over time, which I think is really interesting because as someone who doesn't know a whole lot about art, that's something I never would have considered at all. And another really big thing in the book, which I think is really central not only to the arguments around art itself, but also just central to the storyline, is conceptual art. So conceptual art, as I understand it, is focusing more on the idea of what you're presenting rather than the quality of the presentation, which I think, or even like the manner in which it is presented. So conceptual art isn't necessarily like a painting or a sculpture or something. One example is in Ray Lawson's case, and it kind of got him into trouble. He made like designer medication. The whole art project that's at the center of the whodunit aspect of the book is where these former grad students of Lawsons. They have this group called NoLab, which is the title of the book, and they're going out to kind of expose all the inner workings and kind of dirty deeds within the art world. So that was just really interesting. And so as for some of the quotes, one quote in particular I really liked was, in addition to Ray Lawson, one of his best friends is a man named Victor Florian. And he's just this real, like, rough and tough dude who, like, is a Vietnam vet and later found sculpture as... It's not explicitly stated, but it seemed to me like it was kind of a solace for him. So after some drama around Victor, Ray's going through some of the boxes of his notes. And I actually really like how even the quote is introduced. It says, at the top of this quotation, Victor wrote the word yes in big block letters. And just as someone who's done a lot of annotating of stuff, especially my academic career, I totally related to Victor in this case. And so the quote is, one cannot understand data. One must experience it. Data is immediate and obvious. If you're alive, you are a datist. And I just thought that was really interesting. I don't know a whole lot about datism, but it just seemed really cool because I just really appreciated the juxtaposition of knowledge and experience, because I think it's something that's often really underrated. And so I think it's just really cool that that Roth was able to kind of bring up that question. And kind of along with that, another thing that Victor in particular says, while some sad stuff is going on in his life, he says, consciousness is the ultimate gift, and I did my best to savor every experience. Just to be alive, what a feast. To have had the chance to see this big effing crazy world for however brief a time. I guess while I say that quote, I'm just going to pause for a second. There are some swear words kind of sprinkled throughout. So even though I think it's a book that pretty much anyone could enjoy, if you don't like cursing, that might be something, at least one reason why you might not want to check it out. But I think the reason why I like those quotes in the book as a whole is that even though it's the story about these two friends trying to find this group of their former students and figuring out what art is, it's really a story about humanity. Victor has a 30-year-old son who has autism, and he talks about how he's bullied in the subway and how people steal his phone. And when he tells Ray this, Ray gets so angry and he wants to help him and he wants to protect him, but he sees that this character doesn't need it. This character's name is Corey, and he sees that Corey is just... He doesn't accept his maltreatment, but it's gotten to a point where it doesn't even bother him because of the way that he was raised and the fact that he was raised with love. Which brings me to my last quote that I wanted to share. It's when Ray's talking about art again, to kind of bring this full circle, and talking about how for the longest time in this academic art community, people kind of like didn't give painting as much credit, and they would say stuff like, ooh, you're a painter? How novel. Not, because they just felt that it was so overdone. But Ray discovered that, well, it's not really discovering. He rediscovered his passion for art and his love for it. And he says, there are no inappropriate subjects. Nothing is off limits. Nothing too low. Love trumps reason, theory, and the status quo. Love trumped all. It can raise the dead. That's where NoLab got it wrong. They didn't love anything. And so I think for me, these quotes and this story as a whole were really impactful, because even though it's fiction and even though it's this crazy story about these crazy kids who are so idealistic and these older gentlemen who are trying to bring them back into reality and also just try to find them it's about art, and it's about love, and it's about relationships and hardship and just everything that it means to be alive, which honestly kind of goes back to my quote that I found last week about to be alive is to be bruised. And I think this book is really artfully done because it shows that. My only complaint with the book, after all of those accolades, is just that I wish the ending was a little bit more complex. I felt like even though it was a satisfying ending and that it ended kind of the way you wanted it to a degree, it just ended rather quickly after this really complex story. So I wish that was a little bit different, but overall, I truly enjoyed this book, and I'm so grateful to have been recommended this. And I'm really looking forward to my future collaborations with Inkberry. So that's all I have for this book. Next week, I will be checking out The Ambassador's Daughter by Pam Janoff. I saw it in Costco, actually, and coincidentally was gifted it for Christmas. I haven't had the chance to check it out yet, but I'm really excited to. Very curious about what it's all about. So thank you again so much for watching, and hopefully you'll read my blog or see my review in the Left Hand Valley Courier. The links to all of those things will be in the description below. And again, I just want to say thank you for supporting me, supporting my writing, and supporting my love of words. Thanks.